Daniel Roberts,
And I'm Roger Price.
and you're listening to Artifacts from Highline, where we'll be bringing you stories about some of the artifacts and exhibits we have at the Highland Heritage Museum.
And some of the artifacts we have in the collections room also that are of interest to maybe different people. So that's we're going to try and introduce some new topics to the museum.
So thank you for tuning in. I hope you find some of these interesting stories and enjoy.
Good afternoon. I'm Roger Price, and I'm here with Daniel Roberts. And this afternoon, we're going to discuss a little bit about the very early days of Three Tree Point. Now, that was a lot of it is explained in the book by Doug Shadle and Pam Harper and Guy Harper, titled "The Three Tree Point." But and there's a lot of pictures in that book. So if you're ever get an opportunity to pick that book up somewhere, I know we have some copies for sale here, but they have a lot of pictures of the early days of Three Tree Point. But I know around 1901, 1903, they built a pavilion down there right on the point, and that was it was octagonal in shape, and the diameter of it was about 120 feet. So it was a pretty good sized pavilion, and it was used for dances and get-togethers, and even covered for, if there was a picnic and the weather happened to go bad. But and they put curtains up so when the wind would blow, they could kind of block out the wind that came through there. But yeah, that was there on one of the probably right about on the where the point comes to peak there from the north side and the south side. That I don't remember when, because it was there way before I was born, but I don't remember when it was actually torn down. But it was in that area around also where the Three Tree Point store is, probably in that general area there. But yeah, there was used to be the kind of the Indians would come down from the Duwamish River and different, and maybe I don't know how as far as Miller Creek and different, and they would fish down there and maybe have uh, cookouts and different things going on there. So it was kind of an interesting uh, little area that was developed quite a bit as time went on. I mean, at first it was just cabins and probably tents, and then it developed where the folk from Seattle would come out and they would buy a piece of property and then they would eventually build on it. And that's how they got to be started kind of in that time frame. But yeah, there was some really nice views in there too, depending on what lot you buy and how much property you actually bought. So, Daniel, I know you might have a few things to say about that area also.
Yeah, so there was a couple notable points I saw about Three Tree Point, just to I think the same book that you were using and just kind of looking online. One of them is the bulkheads that they have. So I guess like the first bulkhead was only 2 feet tall and with land on the property being lower, which meant that whenever there was a storm, the salt water just flooded the property, which kind of defeated the purpose of the entire thing. Uh, then they had a high log bulkhead to replace it, but this was slowly washed away. And so they then switched to a cement bulkhead, and that also got destroyed. And they tried to reinforce it with a large rock bulkhead in 1986. Apparently, just like the bulkheads in the area in general had some issues. And so the King Conservation District had implemented a type of program to remove some of these bulkheads and to replace them with more natural ones. So I guess their main concern was making it more friendly to the kind of forage fish in the area. And so they essentially replaced it with more boulders and kind of like wood, like logs. And this was done not too long ago, like through like 2019, I think until around 2022.
Oh, uh-huh.
So, and then there's another interesting thing about like kind of that coast of Three Tree Point is that it has a shallow cape that made it a bit of a travel hazard for ships. And there's never been a lighthouse that was built here, so instead they relied on a minor, like a light that did flash that like flash like every 5 seconds, like for navigational lights and foghorns. There was also a vessel traffic surface that gave a navigation light that helped guide them, and the commercial vessels traveling north would have to travel between that buoy and the point itself, which brought them awful close to the shore.
Oh, sure.
Because I guess like that cape it feeds into the Puget Sound, so it kind of makes sense that you would have ships coming through the area.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know the mosquito fleet was, they had a big dock that went out into the water off of Three Tree Point, and the mosquito ships that was one of their stops right along there. So,
Yeah, and that's how, people got around this area before automobiles were
yeah,
readily
before
available.
cars and roads were built, they traveled by ship, steamship.
There was also a Three Tree Point store that opened in 1903. And for a long time, it operated as such until it eventually became a residence, with Tony McCraggy being the last one to operate it as a business. But it still, at least the last time I had read up on it, it still retains its look that it had had since 1903. There had also been a Three Tree Point Clubhouse, which was built in 1916 at the corner of Maplewild Avenue and 35th Street Southwest, which was apparently a 2,280 square foot one-room building. And the front of that building had a clay tennis court with metal stripes for the lines. And operated as a clubhouse until the 1940s when it also became a residence. And then the last thing, and this one was like we have a couple pictures of it, and it's kind of like one of the more iconic things I think was Gunther's Tower. And this I'd mentioned this one briefly. It was how early on realtors were able to try to sell land to people. They just go, and what it was is the tower spine was built out of a Douglas fir tree with with a spiral staircase that would let people ascend up to 450 feet above the Puget Sound. So it'd give you quite the view. And the tower itself is no longer here, but there is actually a mural on a signal box at Ambon Boulevard and Southwest 148th Street. So, if you're feeling bored enough, you know,
Oh,
it's a
check it
neat,
out.
it's a
Sure.
neat little mural.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, that's very interesting. Sure. And I should say, add uh, that tower, Gunther's Tower, was down right around uh, in Seahurst, down in the area of the post office and the St. Francis School and church. But the elevation in that area is probably about 400 feet. So I imagine the tree was probably 50 feet, and the spiral staircase, you got to go up and walk up that, and you could see the area of the lake and the sound. So you got a pretty good view. And then people would purchase lots from uh, observing whereabouts they wanted to buy property. So it was pretty interesting.
For sure. I mean, I imagine if it had been a 450-foot tall Douglas fir, it might have actually survived, just
Yeah,
as
yeah,
that would have been a more unique feature in and of itself.
yeah.
But anything else you'd like to add about Three Tree Point?
Oh, I think we covered a lot of it. There's always going to be times when we'll come back to different things we learned about it over the time we're doing this little program. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, it's always it's like for such a small area, it still has a few interesting, unique things about it.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I was a kid, I used to ride my bike, not very often because it was no matter how you went down to the point, either Sylvester Road or on Maple Wild there, it was a kind of a long trip back up out of there. So it was a little bit of work involved. So usually if you went down, you came back up on the Sylvester Road side and the slope was a little less severe and you could pedal that usually without much problem. But the other way, it comes out up by Seahurst. That's got some dips and some steep hills in sections there, so that was a little more difficult.
Yeah, I can understand wanting to avoid that kind of trip. Well, anything else you want to add, or
No, that should do her, Daniel.
uh,
Wow.
fantastic. Well, I hope you folks found some of this interesting, and I hope you'll join us next time.